Here we are again, reading from the Bhagavatam. All ready? Everyone ready? Where we're reading from, dearest?
Canto 4, Chapter 14, Text 33.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 33. But for King Vena, who is simply inauspicious, who would blaspheme the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whose mercy one is awarded all kinds of fortune and opulence? Purport. When human society, individually or collectively, becomes godless and blasphemes the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is certainly destined for ruination. Such a civilization invites all kinds of bad fortune due to not appreciating the mercy of the Lord. So I guess that's more or less most of the population. I mean, in the Brahmins in the verse are saying, apart from King Vena, who would blaspheme the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Well, they should fast forward to
Kali Yuga on steroids.
And then it's you know, yeah, it's interesting even when you're on social media and people say, oh, thank God, like if there's a chat thing, strangers, I mean, not people I know, and they say, thank God this happened, oh, thank God they got saved, and just for people to use that word God and to thank God, like if there was some, I don't know, there was some kids that were stuck in some sand recently, or there was like an accident, and people just say, you know, on the comments, thank God they were saved. That saying thank God triggers a massive amount of people. They forget what they're on that discussion thing for. They forget what we're all reading about in the news, which is someone had an accident but they're saved, or something misfortune, and it just goes off onto something completely different. Or seriously, you can try, if you want to trigger people on social media, just bring God into it. And I don't even mean quoting any particular scripture or even naming God, as it were. Just use the word God and just thank in a positive way, though, you know. So just, it is triggering. It's so funny. So yeah, it's like here when I read that, and it was like, oh, but for King Vena, who would blaspheme the Lord? Yeah, I was just thinking, so sad we're in the times we're living now, where actually people don't hesitate to blaspheme God. He's a nobody. He's a nobody in this day and age, you know. The vast majority. I mean, I'm not saying there's no. The vast majority. The majority is. Yeah, it's a nobody. It's terrible.
I wonder exactly, out of the 7 billion people on the planet, it must be more than that now, how many are actually believers in God? Now, of course, you have 1 billion in India, and probably a large proportion of those are believers. 1 billion plus in China. And one might say they're atheistic, but if they're actually Buddhist, then there is some, even though Buddhists don't theoretically believe in God, but our understanding is that Buddha is God, so there Krishna. You go. So that's a couple billion. Then in America, you have so many Christians across Europe. Yeah, Africa. Yeah, just South America, predominantly like Catholic. I would imagine that the majority of people on the planet actually do believe in God on some level, I would have thought. But for sure, the principle is in leadership and amongst governments, you know, the whole thing has been division between, church and state kind of thing. So get God out of the picture, like you said. Okay, text 34. The great sages, thus manifesting their covert anger, immediately decided to kill the king. King Vena was already as good as dead due to his blasphemy against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, without using any weapons, the sages killed King Vena simply by high-sounding words. Something like that, maybe.
No, I don't think it was. I think it was like high pitched and that.
No?
Why don't you just read? What did you do?
It's exciting, I'm excited. Text 35. She's just embarrassed. Can't you say that Indian lady blushing? Right? Text 35. After all the sages returned to their respective hermitages, the mother of King Vena, Sunita, became very much aggrieved because of her son's death. She decided to preserve the dead body of her son by the application of certain ingredients and by chanting mantras, mantra yogena. Text 36. Once upon a time, the same saintly persons, after taking their bath in the river Saraswati, began to perform their daily duties by offering oblations into the sacrificial fires. After this, sitting on the bank of the river, they began to talk about the transcendental person and his pastimes. Text 37. In those days, there were various disturbances in the country that were creating a panic in society. Therefore, all the sages began to talk amongst themselves. Since the king is dead, there is no protector in the world. Misfortune may befall the people in general on account of rogues and thieves. So they're right back to where they were before. So they were in the same situation previously. That's why they installed King Vena. But King Vena turned out to be like, not such a nice person, which they already knew that when they installed him. So they killed him. That doesn't sound like the nicest thing to do to a guy. So they killed him, but the point being that he was already as good as dead because he was blaspheming God. So it was mercy. Them killing him was actually mercy. Otherwise, he was probably going to die a horrendous death. But now, they're just chilling out, having their bath, chanting mantras, and glorifying the Supreme Lord, and all of a sudden they're realizing, okay, rogues and thieves are back. Okay, Prabhupada gives a purport here.
Oh, he does.
Yes, Prabhupada purport. Haribo.
What is Johnny talking about?
Whenever there is a disturbance in the state or a panic situation, the property and lives of the citizens become unsafe. This is caused by the uprising of various thieves and rogues. At such a time, it is to be understood that the ruler or the government is dead. All these misfortunes happened due to the death of King Vena. Thus, the saintly persons became very anxious for the safety of the people in general. The conclusion is that even though saintly persons have no business in political affairs, interesting, they are always compassionate upon the people in general. Thus, even though they are always aloof from society, out of mercy and compassion, they consider how the citizens can peacefully execute their rituals and follow the rules and regulations of Varnashram Dharma. That was the concern of these sages. In this age of Kali, everything is disturbed. Therefore, saintly persons should take to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, as recommended in the Shastras. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gatiranyata. both for spiritual and material prosperity, everyone should devotedly chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Interesting. So it seems that there's a huge responsibility on the government to protect and provide for society and for its citizens. And rogues and thieves exist when government is bad. So if there's crime and thievery and things like that, what Prabhupada is saying here in the purport is that that's because the government is basically dead. Because the government actually should be focusing on looking after and taking care and providing for the citizens. Of course, extracting taxes or whatever. But those taxes should be given back in such a way that people feel looked after and cared for. And protected, I think is the key word here, protected.
Okay. This verse, Harinama, Harinama, and then Kalu Nashti, Avanashti, is Janananda Maharaj during the 50th anniversary of Sri Radha Gokulananda at the Manor. He was sharing how when he came to the temple the first time, it was actually at the Manor, where he saw that above the altar they had this verse, Harinama, Harinama, and then when he saw the words Kalo Nashti, and it says Kalo Nashti Ava, Nashti Ava, he was thinking, poor Ava, what did Ava do that they're calling her nasty? Because Kalo Nashti, and it was like, who is Ava? And what did she do? Why are they proclaiming that she's nasty so many times? It was so funny, isn't it? It's so funny.
It was, everyone was laughing. Hilarious.
It just makes you think, how
Nastieva.
We
But
take
it's nasty
things
Ava. It's written nasty. If you read it like English, nasty Ava. Oh, sorry, nasty. Yes.
Nasty.
Nasty Ava.
Alright, text 38. When the great sages were carrying on their discussion in this way, they saw a dust storm arising from all directions. This storm was caused by the running of thieves and rogues who were engaged in plundering the citizens.
There's a lot of thieves.
Purport. Thieves and rogues simply await some political upset in order to take the opportunity to plunder the people in general. To keep thieves and rogues inactive in their profession, a strong government is always required. Now, isn't this interesting? Because, we're not political or anything.
It's like every session you say that.
No, because I'm not saying anything. I'm just generally saying it. But there are certain protest groups or people, I'm not going to get political, and they do a lot of demonstrations, as you can, because it's a democracy. But what you'll notice is people turn against these groups and what they're trying to protest against, because when they do their marches and stuff, there's always, like it says here, a lot of plundering and thieving, stealing.
Thieving, mate. Thieving.
Because as it is explained in some of the media that care to report properly, you get genuine like thieves and rogues come in and they become so-called part of the protest and bring it down, because it's not the original group that's protesting that's doing that, but a negative impression comes to certain groups that do regularly protest about rightful things, because these other people infiltrate. This is I don't mean this is like some secret thing. It's a normal thing, unfortunately, in most countries, that a lot of the people that go around smashing in the shops and nicking the TVs and nicking this and that are not actually genuine members of the group that are protesting. So I'm just bringing that up because it's interesting, because it says thieves and rogues simply await some political upset in order to act. And these people come in when there's genuine protests about things going on in the world, and they're genuinely just, it's a democracy, you can do that, you can highlight, look, we're not happy, this is concerning, we're just highlighting what's going on. But other people take the opportunity, so it gives a very negative impression of a genuine expression, which is allowed in democracy. So, and yeah, a strong government, as Prabhupada says here, is required to weed all that out, you know?
Mm. Okay, we'll read one more.
Alright. Go on then. You read it by yourself. Like in silence. Oh.
I have a note and I was looking at the note.
Yeah, no, but everyone's waiting. You can't just be like...
Creating suspense.
No, it's not suspense. Everyone's like, what?
Upon seeing the dust storm, the saintly persons can understand that there were a great deal of irregularities due to the death of King Vena. Without government, the state was devoid of law and order. And consequently, there was a great uprising of murderous thieves and rogues who were plundering the riches of the people in general. Although the great sages could subdue the disturbance of by their powers, just as they could kill the king, they considered it improper on their part to do so. Thus, they did not attempt to stop the disturbance. Now, this is interesting. This touches on a point we were discussing yesterday, which is that some people have certain natures. It's not that everyone is going to feel inclined to do something about it, as we can see here, the Brahmanas. Purport: the saintly persons and great sages killed King Vena out of emergency, but they did not choose to take part in the government in order to subdue the uprising of the thieves and rogues which took place after the death of King Vena, which one could argue they were responsible for. It is not the duty of Brahmanas and saintly persons to kill, although they may sometimes do so in the case of an emergency. They could kill all the thieves and rogues by the prowess of their mantras, but they thought it the duty of Kshatriya kings to do so. Thus, they reluctantly did not take part in the killing business. In the killing business. Killing is my business, and business is good. That was a famous album by a heavy metal band when I was a child.
Oh, who?
They were called Megadeth.
Megadeth.
They were like
Right.
competitors to Metallica, but Metallica kind of blew them away in the end. Okay. So, like just a bit of trivia there. Heavy metal, rock and roll.
Right.
So, interesting again about natures, because the tendency may be for us to say, wait a minute, dear Brahmanas, you killed the king, left us kingless, left us governmentless, not headless but armless, according to the idea of head being Brahmanas, arms being Kshatriyas, and now now that the rogues and thieves are here, you could just chant your mantras at a very high pitch and get rid of them all. But no, you're not going to do that. Instead, you're not going to do anything. But they will do something. But we'll have to see. So we'll stop here. But there's a little bit of a suspense builder. All right?
Yeah.
Thank you all very much for tuning in. Remember to like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
and remember to watch the videos. You can watch them again and again if you like. You don't have to just watch them once. You can watch them 5 times. Keep watching.
Okay.
Thank you all very much.
Hare Krishna.